The sixth and final day of the Santos Tour Down Under in its 20th year all began and was finishing on a circuit based in downtown Adelaide. 24.5 kilometre laps, a total of 90 kilometres. Two riders in the overall classification, Richie Porte and Daryl Impey, locked together equal on time.
Well, everybody trying to find the first breakaway of the day, but it was a very rapid start over the first few laps. But finally, a group of three riders managed to get off the front end of the main field. Owen Logan, Trils Corseth and Laurent Didier.
They continued to fight out and dice and get caught and re-caught again as they went up at Montefiore Hill. But there was no sign of Daryl Impey and there was no sign of Richie Porte. The breakaway itself began to implode when it was the rider here, Trils Corseth, who stopped by the side. It was then Logan Owen who took out the 3-second time bonus, but the battle for second place and third place went to Sanchez and Guerrero, both of Team Astana. And although it was only 2 seconds and 1 second, they would climb slightly in the overall standings.
Well, once that sprint point had gone through at the end of lap 8, another breakaway formed at the front end of the main field. This time it was the turn of Ben O'Connor and Logan Owen again.
Yes, Logan Owen had never been caught. He'd been joined by Ben O'Connor, who took out the points there on the King of the Mountains. The race for third place was being taken by the Lotto Jumbo rider Martin Vinance.
He was applying the pressure on the front end of the peloton, but they weren't going to let anybody else get off the front end of the main field, and the two riders at the front of the race started to build up one of the biggest advantages we've seen in this race over the years, approximately 2.5 minutes.
Yes, with 8 laps to go, one man was trying to reach him. This was Antoine Duchesne. He was riding 1 minute and 21 seconds behind the two leaders. The peloton were another further minute back.
The Canadian rider on the French FDJ squad was caught in no man's land.
The two front runners continued to keep the pressure on, and Duchesne would not catch them up. In fact, the peloton brought him back, and this was now bringing it down into the last 4 laps of the race, and the work being done by Thomas de Gendt and indeed by Damien Howson of the Mitchelton Scott team.
Riding very close to the front end of the main field, Richie Porte, surrounded by his teammates. He didn't put his nose to the front of the main field looking for any of the time bonus seconds.
The only way now that Daryl Impey could lose this race would be a crash, and there was a crash just on 4 kilometres out from the finish, but Impey was not involved, neither was Richie Porte. It was all down to a bunch sprint now, and the top sprinters of the Tour this week were all crossing swords together. Viviani on the right, coming up to the middle, Caleb Ewan, right behind him in the red, Andre Greipel, and in the green, Peter Sagan. And it was Greipel who topped and tailed this event with a win on day 1 and a win on day 6. He now brought his total to a massive 18 stage wins. And the man who had won this race for the first time ever for South Africa was Daryl Impey. Andre Greipel getting the stage victory and saluted the crowd, the German taking out the stage which he's won on a number of times before. Daryl Impey, though, with a huge applause from the crowd, had become the first South African rider to win this. In the 20 years of this event, Australian riders have won it 12 times. South Africa now join the elite list of winners from a foreign country. All he has to do now is defend it next year as he takes the lead in the World Tour.
Your 2018 winner of the Santos Tour Down Under, Daryl Impey.
Yeah, I would say experience helps a lot. When you do 20 laps and you can see every time the final, you always can adapt and try to speak with your teammates and make it possible. And that's what we did. We didn't want to make a full lead out. We just wanted to keep the position, and it worked out perfectly.
Thrilled. It's coming into the race, didn't expect to win the race, but sometimes the stars line up and everything goes well and according to plan. And I worked really hard in the off season, so happy to get this win. And you know, especially the win goes to my family in South Africa, to Ali and the kids. Sacrificed a lot to get me here today, so I'd like to dedicate the win to them.